one of the most terrifying things in non-duality, and to humans, ironically, is love, which is also what they desire the most. But before I go into that, I first have to describe what non-duality is. So non-duality is an energetic movement from being a subject to being limitless. It's even beyond the idea of limitless. So it's beyond the word of limitless, it's undefined. So from being a subject inside the body to being undefined. And that's really radical. And it's not an intellectual thing. It's not like an understanding that you suddenly understand what the I am is, or awareness is, or knowing is, or the supreme is. It's an energetic movement from being a finite person that lives inside of this body to the experiencer no longer being finite, and even beyond the word infinite. So the experiencer is no longer a subject, but the experiencer, you could say, is all things, everything. Or you could say consciousness, if you like. But in the end, all words have to be broken down, so even the word consciousness. But if we go with the word consciousness, you could say that it's an illusion that this body-mind mechanism is conscious. All things are conscious, but having the perspective from this body-mind mechanism. Or you could say that this body-mind mechanism is being used by a part of consciousness. That's not a very good explanation of it. The best one I find is if you have a paper bag, a light and a paper bag, and you poke 20 holes in it and you put the paper bag over the light. That's what we are. It's one light, which is all things, one light of consciousness, which is all things, but we have this seeming aspect of consciousness which is looking through us. But really, when you go into it, it is infinite. It is not limited. It isn't generated by these body-mind mechanisms. It's beyond the body-mind mechanism, and it's all things. In the human world, we think that we are conscious and that our brain is conscious and that we are somebody that lives in the brain and that we've got this life of a certain amount of years and that we exist and are alive. But in non-duality, consciousness is there prior to the body-mind mechanism. And consciousness is actually not separate from all things. All things come from consciousness and are consciousness, which is so different. It's so radical. And what can happen is there can be an energetic shift in the bodies, which isn't an intellectual recognition, but normally prior there is an intellectual recognition. But it's not an intellectual recognition. It's an energetic movement from being a body-mind mechanism that's experiencing to being this infinite consciousness that's all things. And you could call it like an expansion outward. So the experiencer is all places and no places simultaneously. And in that, a body and mind mechanism is arising, and in that, this world is arising. But the idea that you are a body, that you are a subject experiencing the world, is totally illusory. This movement is movement back to love. So consciousness is absolute love. So Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, Satchitananda, this is a famous Sanskrit saying, when consciousness meets beingness, then there is Ananda, bliss, which could be translated different ways, but you could say love, absolute love. So beingness is all things, it's everything, and consciousness is everything. But what happens when you're a subject is it's like you are a person in here, aware of all things, or you know all things, but you are limited and separate from all things. And you have this sense of I am, which is the being part. and it feels like your I am is limited and separate to here. Whereas your I am is being, it's all of life, being, it's this, it's beingness. And when they meet, there is this energetic expansion where consciousness and beingness seemingly go back into themselves. They're no longer limited to here, the I am and the consciousness, the personal consciousness. They go back into all things, and they meet. Even though they were always meeting and always lovers, it's like they go back and meet, and it's absolute divine love, it's union. So often prior to awakening, there is fear that arises in the body, because what it does feel like is it feels like you're dying. It's different for everyone, but it feels like you are dying because who you've always been as a separate person is this entity that's experiencing from in here. And as that begins to shatter and shake, the energy goes outwards towards love, and then that creates a lot of terror because the person is like, no, I don't want to die. It's so ironic. It's like what you fear most, death, is what keeps you from what you want the most, which is love. Absolute love. When people have like near-death experiences, they often say they go towards the light, because this love could also be described as light, even though it's not physical light like we think of light. And this light and love, it could be described as the same thing. And so when people feel like they're going into their experience love, it's actually an awakening experience, but their mind is still interpreting it in some way. They're beginning to go to this like infinite field of love, of what they are. So I think the most terrifying thing is ironically love, because if you absolutely truly love, then you disappear. There is no subject